We sold our house!
Don't get too psyched, because you haven't sold it yet. You're in escrow. Do you understand what escrow is?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode with Heart to Heart with Escrow. Today, our special guest is Julio Arana. Very stoked to have you, Julio, because you're the most interesting man in the planet. Like, you're everywhere. You do a lot of things. And so let's start with kind of introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for describing me as the most interesting man on the planet.
Yes, you are.
That's a hard gig to live up to. I don't think so. I just kind of live my life the way I want it. So
yeah.
Maybe that makes it a little interesting. I am Julio. I live in Santana. I work in Santana and I play. I spend a lot of time in the city. Go Santana.
Yes.
But I was actually born in Guadalajara in 1987. I'm going to be 36 years old this year.
37 young. You're still young.
Yeah, no, 36, not 37.
37,
no,
36?
36. No me pongas otro. No
Otro año más, no. You're still in your 30s.
I came to the States when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
My family's been coming back and forth for a minute. My grandma was born in Michigan, so we've always been here.
Look at that. Michigan. Did you ever travel to Michigan?
No, I wanted to. You used to be able to buy properties in 2008 for $500 in Michigan.
How long ago? 2008?
2008, 2009.
That's not too long ago.
I was in college. That was,
wow.
Yeah. There were some covenants that you had to make, but used to be able to do that I never flew. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the word immigrant because we like to label ourselves as immigrants, but I think we've always been here and we deserve the right to not call ourselves immigrants.
Exactly.
And we kind of deserve the right to
That was
what
they labeled us, and so people go with the flow with that. So
yeah, I mean, we've always been here, so I kind of want to change how I identify as. Maybe not so much an immigrant, but there is some struggle with it, which is good to identify yourself with because there's like an identity of hard work and dedication. Anyway, I came to the States when I was 8. We came to Santana. It was the 90s. The 90s was an interesting place to live here. I didn't really fit in too much. It was very cholo culture.
Yeah, everywhere. I think.
And Guadalajara in the 90s was very kind of a rock kind of, you had a big boom and I have a lot of older siblings. I'm the youngest of 5.
Oh wow, okay.
So everyone's older than me. So I kind of got a lot of influence from what they were into, and it was whatever.
What were they into back in the day? Was like Alejandra Guzman. I know you like Enanitos Verdes.
Yeah, and the rock en español stuff. One of my brothers was into like Guns N' Roses, and then one of my brothers had a Doors. It's funny because you played the Doors.
Yeah.
One of my brothers
love the Doors.
Had a Doors album, and I was just hooked since the first time I heard it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Doors has been the longest band I've ever liked, and I love them. So we came here, had to get adjusted. It was just the moving struggle. I went from the house I grew up in, my mom built. So there's always been kind of real estate in our family.
You go. It's in the blood.
Yeah, she built it from the ground up, and we lived there. And we had a fairly upper middle class lifestyle in Guadalajara, so it was good. I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of time to hang out. My mom used to own a restaurant, so she was pretty busy for the weekends. I spent a lot of time with my grandma. Mm-hmm. Recently passed away a couple years ago.
I saw that. Yeah.
She showed me a lot of love, a lot of cooking, a lot of hugs. So sometimes I see the TikToks of mean grandmas, and I'm like, damn, my grandma was not like that.
Yeah.
She always hugged me and shit. Like, she always encouraged. So
yeah.
I feel bad for people that have mean-ass grandmas because my grandma was not mean. We came here, went to Washington. My mom always wanted me to put me in a better school. But I remember having my own room and a lot of space to all of us from one night to another, living in it was a 2-bedroom house that my padrino had somehow hooked us up with on Van Ness in St. Andrew.
Okay.
And we lived there for a minute, for like a month. And my mom, knowing like she's always kind of movida, she's like, "Oh, we got to get the fuck out of here."
I've had the pleasure to meet her. Yes.
Happy Mother's Day to all
Happy
the mothers.
Mother's Day.
Feliz Día de las Madres.
Feliz Día de las Madres a todas las mamás. To your mom.
Igualmente, sí. Mamás chingonas.
I know, las mamás chingonas. Your mom's is a strong woman. I had the pleasure to, meet her and we do business together and stuff. And I mean, I saw her house in Guadalajara and I was like blown away. And I'm like, this lady is a strong lady, like, business wise, and she's a hustler, and the love that she has for you, your kids, she talks about you all highly.
Yeah. I mean, I think we see what she did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love my mom because she let me live my life, and I was still successful. So I'm always pretty grateful that she kind of just let me do my thing.
Yeah.
She didn't really push. Obviously, your parents always kind of want, like, oh, you got to be a doctor or a lawyer or some bullshit like that. Not that I have a lot of doctor and lawyer friends, so I'm not talking shit on the profession. It's just she didn't really push it, so she encouraged, and I was able to shine. So I'm always forever grateful. I know it wasn't always her cup of tea, but she never really like belittled me or anything.
That's a good thing. I mean, it's different for the cultures, at least like for me coming from my Mexican culture, like. My parents were my dad was very like stubborn in his ways, and he never wanted to get into real estate, so he was like those, men that had the money under the mattress. And so they limit you, at least with my upbringing, was a limit to like, oh, that's all you did. And if you did a little great, it's like, you're lucky. You know what I mean? Like they didn't wish more than what, I don't know, we could, or they never had the chance to live for the American dream.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Good for your mom.
I mean, she always had the cliches, she's like, tú eres el arquitecto de tu destino, you're the captain of your own ship.
Yeah.
And she always really just encouraged me, like, oh, tú puedes. Like, it wasn't never like, you can't do it. Like, I'd have a crazy idea. She's like, tú puedes, you can do it.
That's good.
So there was always a lot of that. Like, I was just talking to a friend yesterday about the differences in parenting. I mean, I had chores and shit. I had a lot of stuff to do as a kid, but she was always very encouraging. And I remember I was at a concert. I went to go see Guns N' Roses in Guadalajara, and I started to cry really in the middle of a concert because I was like, damn. I played all these songs super loud in our two fucking one bedroom apartment, and my mom was cool with it. I'm like, fuck, she just dealt with all the noise and shit,
Neighbors didn't come knocking and telling.
Oh, they did. Yeah. Eventually, we moved to a nice neighborhood after my mom sold her house and her business in Guadalajara. So subconsciously, I was always aware of assets, right? Like because she always had assets. So the fact that she was able to sell her assets, she was able to have a down payment for a house in a nice neighborhood in the U.S.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. So. I kind of saw the asset part of it, even though she might have not actually explained it, and I'm like, oh, I understand. Once we moved to a nicer part of town, my neighbor, I think I had the cops called 15 times, maybe 20 in the time that I was there.
What did your mom tell the cops?
My mom would be pissed because our house was nicer.
Okay.
Our house, my parents always like to keep shit nice and houses nice, so I learned to like kind of remodel and keep nice houses because of them. And our house was the nicest on the block, and we're fairly quiet. My mom's a fairly quiet person.
Yes, she is, yeah.
So I'm a fairly quiet person myself, even in my living situation, but I just like to play drums, and they happen to be loud. I don't despise many people, but I still despise that woman.
I hear you. Those are the things that keep us,
Yeah. So, I mean, anyway, we lived there. Okay. We moved around. Eventually, Mom, sold the house. I went to MacArthur, Taft. I went to Saddleback High School.
Okay.
I was in honors classes and stuff, but I didn't really see. Somehow I made up my mind at 14 that I wasn't going to go straight to a university. So I kind of goofed around when I was in high school.
Okay.
Had a lot of truancies, probably like 50. I kept up my grades. I was okay. Like I got C's and B's. I still had honors classes, so I just didn't really care. Like the others, I wasn't really into it.
Right.
For whatever reason. And then I graduated. I got my first job when I was 13 years old.
Oh, wow. Early age.
Yeah.
13. Here?
Yeah. I've always worked. I got a job. My brother at the time, Caesar, was working as a contractor, like as a painting contractor. Okay. And he would get these jobs on the side. And my first job was to clean a beachfront property that had stainless steel fence, like
Oh, wow, okay.
So it got really fucking messy, and that was my job on the weekends. I would go. I started smoking pot from a really early age, so I would steal their weed and smoke their weed.
Really? Where'd you find them? They just had them?
They I mean, it was their house. They would
Got it.
we couldn't go inside. They would leave the house, and I would go right their stash. Like,
Adventurous.
yeah, it was a gay couple, Elliot and Richard. I remember, and they would leave the stash, and I would rate the Bombay Sapphire and then smoke some joints and go hit the water after work.
Nice.
So, I mean,
That's
I
a fun
worked.
job.
Yeah. Eventually, I kind of got over it. And I mean, I probably had 30 jobs in my life. And
Okay.
I would get fired or get over it. Like, just
Right.
fuck this place, kind of.
Yeah.
And I worked at the swap meet selling T-shirts. Every summer, my dad would take me. He was working at a machine shop, at a sheet metal shop. And a lot of my family members and family got into that blue collar industry.
Got
like
it. Mhm.
Machine shop, like sheet metal industry. It's fairly lucrative, especially here in Orange County, where there's a big concentration of like contracting work for the government.
Right.
So
There
they're
is,
aerospace
especially,
and shit like that. And it's kind of a booming, and it's still kind of like booming. So I worked there for a minute. Every summer, we'd wake me up at 5 a.m. Oh shit. I hit the time limit. Can you hit?
Hold on a second.
Give us a second.
Give us a second.
My bad.
It's okay. Take your time.
I give myself
Certain times. There we go.
time limit on that.
Don't worry.
And I hit the limit today.
It's okay. We're going over the limit. That's for sure.
So my dad took me when I was a kid. Took me to the sheet metal shop. I got a job. I asked his boss for work. His name was John Spielsman. And I was like, John, can I get a gig? And he's like, yeah. I was 14. And my dad would take me to work with him every morning, waking up at 5 a.m.
5 a.m. How did you go to school? Is it just during
Oh,
the summer?
no. This is
During
during the summer. Yeah.
Okay,
During the summer, I worked there, and he would never let me miss. Like, I used to like to get fucked up in high school, and I'd be hungover as fuck, and he'd wake me up. Levántate, cabrón.
Let's go.
My dad was more of a tough love kind of guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Levántate, cabrón.
So how was that? 5 in the morning? You still not miss? He would still make you get up?
I would still make it. I mean, it was brutal. Sometimes I would go take a fucking bathroom break and sleep for like 30 minutes. But I learned how to make a paycheck there. I got cut. I was always dirty. I was always tired. So that was like a pretty early realization. I'm like, damn, like I ain't doing this forever. Like, right? I can't do this. Excuse me. So, I mean, even then, even like my senior year, I worked for my uncle's shop for a little bit, my uncle Arnulfo. And then I worked at Starbucks, and then I went to OCC. I enrolled there, and I liked college. I did pretty well. I started kicking ass, and I had a job at Starbucks. I was working there, and then Starbucks was always like the ex-girlfriend that would take you back. No, just kidding. That's it.
You kept on coming back?
I kept on coming back to Starbucks.
Well, that's a good thing, though.
I mean, I would show up like, I know how to make drinks. Can you just hire me if I need a job? And they're like, I don't want to train anybody for 2 weeks, so they would hire me.
How long were you at Starbucks? Damn, what were you making? What is the craziest drink you've made at Starbucks? Because people get a little bit crazy with a splash of this and a splash of lemonade and soy.
I don't remember the craziest drinks. The ones we used to make in the back. We used to keep a stash of booze and just blend it into the frappuccino.
With the lemonade.
Yeah, that was that was a crazy one.
That's a Julio Arana special.
Me and my buddy crashed the customer's car. He came in and he owned a dealership. He's like, you guys want to test drive this? And then my friend, who's an attorney now, drove it, crashed it. We didn't get fired. We didn't get written up.
Oh, wow.
I sued his insurance company. When I was 18, I got a check for $15,000. Wow. It lasted me about 3 weeks.
3 weeks? $15,000 at 18?
I know. That was fun.
Wow.
I don't remember what I spent it on. And then that's it. I went to school. I liked school. I got really good grades. I applied. I transferred. I got to I got into UCSB, UCLA.
Oh, God. Okay.
UCSD. Berkeley denied me. UC Santa Barbara. And I didn't even apply to any state schools. And for some reason at the time when I was transferring, I fell in love in the summer and I decided to stay here. And I enrolled and
okay.
it didn't work out.
Oh
So
God, okay.
A month later, you know.
So did you go to college? You know,
I went to Cal State Fullerton. I enrolled at Cal State Fullerton last minute, and they took me because I had really good grades. I had gotten out of these schools.
Got it.
So I ended up going to Cal State Fullerton. I majored in Chicano studies and communication studies. I thought I wanted to go to law school. At the time, like that's all. Like when the entrepreneurial shit started kicking in, like I would read the syllabus from the beginning.
Okay.
And then I would reach out to all the kids and be like, "Hey, you guys want books?" So I would buy books really early, and then I would take them to like A1 copies over in Westminster.
Okay. Yeah.
And make like, I don't know,
Tons
200 copies. So I would get the books. I would sell them to the kids. They say they got them for like $150. I would sell them to them for $75, and it would cost me like $25 to make a copy. So I would come back and have all these kids like just
buying
give them books.
The books,
So I was like paying for school like that way and stuff like that. Graduated.
What did you major in?
Communication studies. So speech communication. There was a lot. I took a lot of speech classes, a lot of argumentation classes, and then and Chicano studies. I love Chicano studies. It really taught me to get in tune with my culture, to identify, to really know the struggle of the working class, Latino, and people of color, and people of different genders. Right. So I hadn't really made the connection to property and land ownership at the time, which I did as I became an adult. Yeah. Graduated, studied for the LSAT, took it, got actually a pretty good fucking score.
Right, I can see that.
And I then actually started paying attention to all the people that were lawyers around me. I'm like, hell no, I don't want to work 80 hours a week. Kind of stuff like that. Yeah, it's a tough gig. On a whim, applied to a master's program in counseling at Cal State Long Beach, and for some fucking reason I got in. I was ridiculously unprepared.
Yeah.
I was really unprepared, and I got in. I don't know how the hell I got in. Everybody else was...
Are you the type of guy that just can read something and learn it really quick? You don't have to study? Does it just clicks in, or you just get it?
Not so much. I can retain a lot of information. I'm a good test taker, but...
Got it.
I also think I was a very good interviewee. So when it came down to the group interview, I was fairly confident.
Got it.
And the peers, I don't think the peers weren't as much as I was.
Yeah.
And I had really good letters of recommendation. I made good friends with some of my college professors, which I'm actually still pretty cool with.
That's good.
They're still in my life. So that and just luck and just trying. I guess sometimes you go on a whim without really thinking about it.
Right.
If I would have thought about it, maybe I would have been scared because I would have seen my competition.
Yeah.
And it was like, damn, you did that much in undergrad? Yeah. I'm not even fucking close to doing this much.
Talking about competition, that's the one thing I kind of admire from you. It's you're not really looking out for your competition. There's other people I don't know, somebody called me the other day from Google. And he goes, have you seen what your competitions are doing? I said, no, not really. I said, I got to look out for my own competition. I look out for me. And if you're confident enough, and that's something that I admire from you, your confidence, and you're not looking out to see what this other agent is doing or what that other agent is doing. You go all in, and it's this is what it is. This is what I like doing, and it's,
Yeah, that's important because, you got to build your own house the way you want it to be built, not based on anybody else's. So if you kind of just focus on that, you cut all the other bullshit.
Right.
I mean, competition's good. You're in competition with yourself. Sometimes you're in competition with your office. But again, what are you doing this for? For the accolades? Right. And some people are in real estate for the accolades, and I get it. That's a pretty valid point. I very early knew that I wasn't, and I sometimes do get into it. When I know I'm pretty close to being number one or whatever, I'm like, okay, let's just go for it. But at the same time, it's not here for the accolades. Have a pretty clear vision. I wanted financial freedom and freedom of time.
Right.
That didn't really necessarily include a Ferrari, a Rolex, any sort of material thing. It had when I really looked at it, I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with it. What makes me happy? I can be outdoors. I can play my drums. I can chat with my friends. I can read. I can write. None of this included really fucking material things, but it did really include a lot of freedom of time. So then how do I buy my time back? That was the most important thing. So the competition didn't really matter because I was building a dream so I can buy my time back.
Financial freedom. And I think that's the other thing we talked about, generational wealth. At what age did you first buy your home, or how did you get into the real estate? What captivated for you to get into it as deep as you are now? I know it's buying and investing, but damn, you do a really good job on those flips. I'm like, whoa, like your vision is pretty straightforward, and it's unique, I think.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that, you know, you do a lot of Santa Ana, but,
yeah,
you know, a lot of the times that I do talk about you, I like the fact that you study the home, especially the antique homes here in Santa Ana, and you have an eye for good homes.
Yeah.
And you don't I just want to buy the house. You like reading the history of the home. You like to see the blueprints on it. I know one of your homes, you even printed a blueprint of the home and you put it up in the front.
That one. Yeah.
And the owner was pretty stoked, you know, and I think for me that's such a respect, because you're doing it not just another transaction, you know what I mean? I think every home that, you know, we've closed together, it means something to you, and the people that sell it to you mean something to you.
I mean, the home, that's what a home, it's your space. I mean, I live in a 1920s Craftsman. It's 1920. It was built in 1920, so 102 years old. So I mean, there was a spirit that lived there, or a soul, and you know, they have their space, and I still believe that there are those spirits roaming there, right? Whether you believe or not. So, I mean, I like to keep its integrity. It's a space. Honestly, my own personal design is way more bohemian than whatever I put on the market.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of study the market and see what the client wants, and I kind of will remodel a house based on that. But my own personal taste is very different, right? So I have always been in sales. That's the one thing. That's how I started in real estate. That's how I kept it going. I've always been in sales. Even when I was in a master's program, I was already working in a sales gig.
Okay.
I worked like in my early 20s. I used to sell fucking spreads with a guy named Fred, and we used to run these farmer markets all over Orange County. I actually really liked that gig.
Oh, really?
It was fun. I would fucking sell spreads and get a 6-pack of beer and just drink it, and it was fun. I would interact. I was outdoors, and we didn't really make much money, like money to build wealth and invest. So I got a corporate gig. I was working at Verizon. I was killing it. I was young, and I started making a 6-figure income by the time I was like 23.
At Verizon?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So the strategy there, and I was doing this for my mom. She always taught me to save. A little bit invest. I took the investment side more. Like, I'm like, no, we got to invest a lot of it. So I would live off my salary, and I would invest all my commissions. That was my little, I always have these really easy formulas that work. Like, don't complicate it. Just fucking make it easy.
Yeah.
Live on my salary, invest my commission.
Yeah,
at the time, smart. I couldn't invest in homes. So I was investing in cars, and a friend of mine and I were flipping cars.
What type of cars? Is
classic
it like
cars.
Classic cars?
Yeah.
You've had a couple of classic cars.
Yeah, I'm not. People always think I'm into cars. I'm not into cars as much as people think. I just had them. They were fun.
Got it.
They were like fun thing to have, and I'm really into homes, but not really into cars as much. This is kind of, people probably think it's sacrilegious because I've had really badass cars.
And you've had some in some of your open houses.
Yeah, open houses, whatever, video marketing, whatever I could. I kind of wish I would have gotten rid of. I got rid of my Corvette, and then I got rid of a Lincoln convertible that I had, and I really missed that convertible. Yeah. We used to call it Ron Burgundy, and it was red, but. You know, sometimes you need the money.
Did you just now buy a Mustang? What did you buy a Mustang?
I bought a Mustang a couple years ago. Okay. Yeah. I actually got rid of all my classic cars now. Yeah, I threw all the money into accessory dwelling units.
Got it. Yeah, that's much better. That pays off. Yeah.
Yeah. So the one thing that I want your listeners to listen to, and I was talking to, is I always thought about different sources of income, right? So you have yourself, and you're the one that's bringing in the dough, but what do you do with that dough? How do you expand it, and how do you make more streams of income? How do you make your money work for you, right? That whole cliche thing. So you had to find different things. Some of these things work, some of these things won't. Some people might want to invest it in vending machines, or in other things that they can. try to make that side hustle as automated as possible. I didn't even really think about this when I was in my mid-20s, by the way. I was like, okay, what do I do? This sounds fun. I get to drive some badass cars.
Right.
I get to, like, you know, if I ever was going to go on a date, I had the coolest fucking car. And I was, like, in my early 20s, so it was, like, the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So I'd show up to someone's house in a really badass car. On hindsight, sometimes the car would fucking not work in the middle of this. So then you're pushing that car. You're calling AAA, right? Like, oh, sorry, it didn't work. And, like, you know, it's part of the experience. So then I hit a roadblock where I was starting to get groomed by management to be like, oh, you maybe store manager, fucking director, and like maybe VP one day. And I was like, fuck this shit.
It's a lot of more responsibility. For
less pay. I'm
less
like, well, now I got to take care of all this shit. Like, I would
deal with other people that you're like, no.
I wasn't into it. I'm like, no, just let me have my time to sell. And then whenever I have my free time, I'm selling other shit so I can make some money. Right. So I wasn't really interested. I'm not always good at fitting into corporate cultures. So I was pretty self-aware of this at the time. And then I had started the master's program, and then I fucking left. It took me like 3 weeks. Wow. And I was like, fuck this shit. I just walked out. I didn't even like drop out.
No 2 weeks notice? It's like that.
No. Yeah. I just like walked out. I was there. I was learning some shit that day. And I'm like, wow, this is just not for me. Yeah. And I walked out.
And what was going through your mind when you walked out? What was your intention? What was the next step? What was the next goal? Or you just walked out and you're like, I'm just gonna figure it out.
I'm gonna figure it out as always.
Try another thing. Okay.
Usually when I make a hard decision, I go and sit at the beach and I just like look at this ocean for a minute. You know, any hard decision, or I'll go walk at the park and I just contemplate it, and I'll be like, damn, that was you know, you put some work into this and now you're gonna walk away. Yeah. But I just didn't see a future. I would have been in the school system, and the bureaucracy is very constraining for me, for the type of individual that I am. You are. So I couldn't really be that constrained, and being that self-aware allowed me to just fucking go quit. So then I'm working here, and then I'm like, I've always kind of wanted to own real estate. I wasn't even into like the Kiyosaki shit at the moment. I was just like, I think I could just make more money selling real estate, right? And maybe have a little bit more mobility. I have a very 9-to-5, and I always kind of have to be here. But usually my selling out, I do my best in fucking 3 hours. If I can only really work those 3 hours, I'll just fucking kill it. I'll have the same output as the other 5 hours. I'm like, what am I doing with these other? I'm bored as fuck here for the next 3 and. You know, I would get people to come in and, like, sell me their cell phones that they were going to trade in. I would put it on eBay, be like, hey, how much is the store going to give you? And they'd be like, 150. I'm like, here's
the whole entrepreneurship since high school.
Dude, I would hustle
every little thing.
I would withdraw like $1,000 every day from my account, and I always had $1,000 and be like, cool, I'm buying your cell phone. And then I would go put it on eBay, and then would get like $500 for it, you know? So we're always flipping
multiplying the money.
Yeah, and then we figured out the commission structure. So like at the end of the month, I would go buy a bunch of phones at Walmart. They were like $14, and the phones that we were selling for fucking $100. And then we needed activation, so I would just give it to all the homeless people. I'm like, free fucking phone, just activate a line. So we were just slanging this thing.
Those homeless people were like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, because if I would hit 4 more sales, it would make me an extra $3,000. As opposed to what I spent $45. There's always a cost. Like, people realize you got to invest, and there's a return, right? Then I couldn't have sold them. Yeah. And I could, if I didn't sell them, I could return the phones. So. Yeah. We're there. Then I was like, cool. I think I'm gonna start selling real estate. I got my license. And I had the car thing to flow me for a little bit. And then I just started selling. Like I started selling, and you know, do you do the whole thing like you start hitting buyers, and I'm like, fuck this.
Did you have a mentor at the time, or that guided you, or anybody that, you know, kind of led you through the way, or tell you, hey, this is where you can go, or, you know, or did you ask a lot of questions, or how did that look like when you got into real estate?
So I worked for a broker. Sammer's cool. He kind of taught me contracts a little bit, but like the hustle, not really.
You already had the hustle.
Well, I would listen to a lot of podcasts, and I got really geeky about it. So
Yeah.
podcasts are new, and I still listen to a ton.
I know,
I
you
share
do.
my podcast.
You share the
all the
podcast
time.
all the time.
Like,
Yep.
for a while, I was obsessed with business podcasts, and like now I haven't. I've been more into other stuff, but so I started like just fucking listening and watching, and I'm like, well, I can try this. Well, I can try this. Let's just try it. Let's just try it. I
Right.
didn't really think. I just did it. So I would go and I started door knocking, and I think I tracked it. I sold the place to my friend. I did a competition with some guy, jump rope competition, for like a marketing piece.
Okay.
I won, so he got this marketing piece. We sent it out. I got a call to be like, hey, can you list our place, which is Marita at the time.
Okay.
I listed her place. I sold it. She's like, I have another place this is very early on in my career, by the way. It was like the first or second year. I have this place that in Desert Hot Springs I think I want to short sell it. I'm like, why do you want to short sell it for? Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh, well, it's been a pain in the ass. It was. And that place was a shitstorm during the fucking housing recession. It got hit hard. Probably one of the hardest hit towns in California. Right now, it's like booming and everybody's there now. But I mean, we're not even talking that long ago. So I was fucking really into bigger pockets at the time. And I was like, well, I'm not going to qualify for a loan. So what do I do? I'm like, hey, what if I give you $5,000 and I just partner up? You put me on title. And then she's like, I'm like, you don't have to deal with selling it. We'll just deal with I'll deal with the management part of it. I think it was 5 or 10. I don't remember what it was. I think it was $5,000 or $10,000. And she's like, cool. She's like, let's do it. So then
better than short selling it.
I mean, then that's how I bought my first place.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, because I didn't even really buy it. I got added to title. So I always had creative solutions from the beginning. Yep. Mm-hmm. Now I'm on this property, and I remember walking and fucking like we had to evict, and I was kind of stoked. Here's the thing that I tell people that are like first time home buyers or like first time investors, like you guys are so fucking scared. Like I was kind of stoked. I'm like, fuck yeah, like I get to like fuck it, we have to evict. Let's just do it. Yeah. Walked in and fucking opened the door, Nazi flags. It was a shit show. Yeah. And it's a little scary, but it's like whatever. Let's just like I have a place. I'm like I was fucking happy. I'm like, damn, I own a place.
You own the place, yeah.
This is like before I even bought my first like my
your
SFR,
primary home, yeah.
So then we started, then we're like, then that one led to me being at a gym with, and then I overheard this agent talk about Desert Hot Springs, and I was like, oh, cool, I own the place there. He's like, oh, this lady wants to sell it. Again, I was listening to a lot of bigger pockets at the time.
Got it.
And I was like, hey, would she be open to carrying the note? And then she's like, I don't know, call her. So I called her, and then she was open to carry the note. So I made an offer.
So that's called a seller carryback?
A seller carryback, yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you all don't have some money, and I mean, you could still do it. There's still, back then, the loan amounts were little, so. Yeah. But you can still do it. It doesn't mean that you
got to get creative.
I mean, I just did it like a couple years ago, right? It wasn't even that long where we had one like that. So I talked to her. She sold me a duplex for $68,000.
Wow. In Desert Hot Springs?
In Desert Hot Springs.
Okay.
Eventually, after having that for a year, sold it and 1031 exchanged it to a bigger place. I call it a 5-plex. It's not really like a legal 5-plex, but there's like 5 units there. Yeah. 2 APNs, so I got 2 properties.
Okay.
2 separate properties. 2 separate
properties, yeah.
With APNs. one big ass parcel, like that's like an acre, and then another one next to it, right? And that was a shit show. I learned to manage, fucking like I've had all kinds of
eviction.
Shit there. I had a lawsuit. I had evictions. I've had some long-term tenants. Like it's a rough one. That's the one I get calls like, Julio, I might not make rent this month, and it's fine. I've given deals to the tenants there. I'm cool. Pay back, give. I run my shit very unconventional. Some people are like very like spreadsheet driven. Oh, it fucking doesn't work on the spreadsheet. Kick them out or whatever. Like I'm not really like that. I think it works for me. So that's it. I mean, I was always selling. So the one thing that I realized is the selling feeds the investing.
Got it.
So I gotta sell. And sometimes I'd get myself into these projects where I needed to fucking pay for construction and a bunch of bullshit. And I was like, fuck, I'm really tight. I don't have a lot of money. Like all my money stuck here. Like let's go sell. So it would give me the motivation to just go hit it pretty hard. Because
Right.
I'm like, damn, I got to come up with $60,000 right now. I got to come up with $70,000. Like, fuck, I have like 5 in my account.
Yeah,
Like,
and you go door knocking as well.
I
which is
have,
the other thing. Like
yeah.
you get to you've gone to like I'm gonna go door knock, and you door knock, pretty good.
Yeah.
In a
yeah, I've gotten deals door knocking.
Door knocking.
I've gotten listings door knocking. I've gotten listings
Talking
cold
to
calling,
neighbors,
talking
yeah.
to neighbors. I've gotten past clients through trust sales.
Uh-huh.
The one thing again when we tie it to how'd you
Right.
get into the master's program? I'm like, well, I'm really good at one-on-ones and interviewing,
Yeah.
so I know my strength.
Yeah.
And if I can get that meeting, I'm so confident I'm
You're
get
gonna
it.
get it, yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
always
that's
get
good.
it, but I go in with tremendous confidence and providing solutions for people in need, right? That's on the investment side. We're talking a lot about investments, but again, we do a lot of transactions. Maybe not so much this year. This first year in fucking a long time, but
Yeah.
I needed the break.
Yeah, you needed the break. Yeah.
Um,
And shout out to Monica, your assistant, man.
Yeah.
I've seen her post, cleaning all those homes that are like, hoarded homes, and she goes deep, and shout out to Monica, your assistant. She's great. She's amazing. I've seen her help you out, and she's
Yeah.
been through it. So shout
Yeah,
out
yeah.
to Monica. She's
Shout out
super
to Monica.
cool. You do need a team like that.
Yeah, we have a good team. Yeah, we have a good team. We have a good team. The contractors are good. Assistant's good. I'm not always the easiest person to work with. But I'm
Yeah.
cool. I'm cool, but I'm sometimes could be difficult. So if you can deal with me, you can.
Yeah.
But then I actually also go look around. I'm like, damn, these people work for fucking pennies and their
Yeah.
bosses suck. So I'm actually not that bad.
Yeah. And so you on the contractor side, when you get like people that you hire to build your home, do they have to have the same vision? How do you go and get them to know that they're going to do the job that you want?
So the vision's here, and it's like I'm the director, so I have to direct the orchestra.
Okay.
So then
That's a
I'm
good
directing
point,
the
yeah.
orchestra, then I have to direct them. They all know their role. They all know pretty good, but I have to direct them to get to the finish line and to the vision. So no, if you leave the contractor to do it, they're going to get the Home Depot special fucking
Got it,
countertop,
yeah.
and it looks like shit.
Yeah, and those are the homes that some people are building out there. Your basic. I know you talk about
Basic
like the
bitch shit.
basic shit, like even like the gray flooring
Oh,
anymore.
yeah.
Like you're like
Yeah.
seriously when you go to these homes and you're like why? And that's something that I think when I say you're unique,
Yeah.
you really put in the effort of building a home, to its standard, not like your basic Mickey Mouse Home Depot stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take that long. I mean, I have a lot of creative friends. I have a lot of artist friends. My ex-partner was super creative, and I was always was looking at art, and I have a lot of friends that are still art focused, and so I mean, I like artists. I like hanging out with artists as opposed to real estate people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
I like
100%.
musicians. I really prefer to spend my time with creative people as opposed to real estate people.
Right.
So then you can kind of bring that into the your design work, and I mean I think the hardest thing is sticking to a budget
Right.
and actually because you got to make these things profitable. You can't you got to make some fucking money here.
Yeah.
You can't just dump it all. So that's kind of where we come about. I mean, orchestrating the whole thing. The delegation was key. As I talk to, and we're gonna tie it to Latino owners. As I tie it, and I see a lot of small business Latinos, they have a fucking ridiculous hard time delegating. They always want to do everything themselves.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a really big hindrance because delegation. I think culturally we might see it as being a huevón or something like that. Oh, ese güey es un huevón. But nah, you can't possibly do everything.
Right. No.
Do what you do best, right?
Right.
Or what you think you do best, and then delegate a lot of the stuff. Sometimes you won't delegate for pleasure. I like doing yard work. I like doing the landscaping in our projects.
Right.
I like it. And I know that I can hire it out and it's faster, but I like to do it. Mm-hmm. But I pick one or two things that are good that I like.
Got it.
I don't want to take it on everything. So the delegation part is really important, which allows us to do a lot of shit, right? Again, yeah, we can grow as a business, but what do I do this for, and what was my goal? To have free time.
Right.
So we can't tack on a bunch of other shit, and if I'm going to be working all this time,
you don't progress.
Yeah. Well, you
If
just
you're trying to do it all by yourself,
you
don't
can't.
probably,
You need some help,
delegate,
and sometimes you scale back on the help depending on the budget, right? Like, but then
Right.
you add on, so you kind of give or take, and that's been a big game changer for us to like handle different businesses, because we are handling a sales business, we're
Right.
handling a flip business, and then we're also handling a management business. Granted, all the properties are in my portfolio,
Right.
but we're still doing some management. So,
What's your average in flipping a home?
like the average flip
From the time that you buy it to the time that you have this project, what is
the average time?
Yeah, what is your ultimate goal actually when you buy a property and flipping it to make it, to when you sell it? Like, is there an average? Is it different for every home that you do that you buy, depending the area, depending? Obviously, I see you a lot in the city, trying to get the planning and whatnot. So, is all that kind of, give you different timing for each one of them?
Yeah, so when we want to do like a flip, again, there's the saying, riches are niches, right? Like,
Right.
so if you're pretty hyper focused, then you find the formula that works. So I like to buy homes under $1 million, and I
Okay.
like to, or the resale value will be close to $1 million, right? I have the most pool of buyers. Maybe I'm not gonna make $1 million on a flip, and some people do that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
For me, this works. So I try to do, because I stick to things that are under $1 million, and I'm gonna sell them here. And I even start marketing when we're building them to all these people and create buzz about it.
Right.
Usually from the time the acquisition to the finish line, 90 days, so 3 months would be good. When I do put a property into contract, I give myself 2 to 3 weeks to close, and in that time I do the due diligence. But part of the due diligence is I get all my contractors in there.
Got it.
So I get everybody to give me quotes, and I try to get everybody scheduled.
Right,
So then, like,
right.
hey, you're gonna start like the day that we close, like, fund it, start, motherfucker. Boom.
Yeah, so they're
Like,
not doing any other projects for someone else.
so
or
then
any
that
other
way
stuff.
allows me to do everything really quickly, right? And then we sort of act as quasi project managers too. So like I'll end up going and getting a lot of material, right? Like,
Got
okay,
it.
cool. What do we need? Boom, 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 boom. You stay working. Here's the material. Here's everything you need. That way it really speeds us the process, right?
Got it.
And I pick everything really close by because I can actually fucking drive to it.
Yeah.
That means that I could go pick up materials. I'm not driving, and I've done stuff out of here,
Right.
but it was like a shit show to drive to Moreno Valley, or a shit show to drive to Desert Hot Springs, or anywhere else. Even I've done some stuff in La Habra. Even that was a shit show. So I like to stay pretty local. I know the market. I know the streets. I can go really quickly. I'm gonna check out a property, right? So 3 to 6 months. Then we have the other ones that we've been doing, and we spent probably the last year, almost 2. We've kept the portfolio going. So we've done a lot of short-term rentals. And what we do is, they take a minute, probably 6 months from acquisition. Then we have to rehab them. Then we have to stage them, buy all the furniture on them. And then we have to, like, market it. And then we have to, like, work on the descriptions and stuff like that. So maybe when we really got heavy into it, I've spent a good amount of 6 to 9 months learning that business, right? So it was like, but it wasn't like learning and then fucking like implementing it. It was like implementing it. I'm like, oh, it was kind of reactive, and some people might trip out on it, but I'm like, fuck it, we're already in the trenches. Let's do it. Like, and sometimes I get pissed, and that's where a lot of my stress comes from, and like I try to, keep my cool, and like usually I'm gonna go on a bike ride before I react to this, like stuff like that, or like let me call you back, let me take a breather, let me talk to my therapist, like, so that way we're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we still have to deal with our clients, right? So we still have to deal with buyers and sellers. So,
and other agents and everybody involved in the transaction.
Yeah, I kind of let everybody just handle it. And I really just get involved when I have to like really get involved. So on the showing side, I'm trying to get just Monica to just a show. And she's just like, show, right. And then I'm like, just kind of like, the brain on the back end, and then I'll try to look for business or listings. So I'm focused on looking for listings, and then the projects I'm focused on project management, so then that's how we're run an efficient efficient machine.
And it works together. So why in the city of Santa Ana? are you very intrigued into investing, or you look into? I know you said because it's local and you stayed local in the city of Santa Ana, and we'll go into talking to your music because you also play downtown Santa Ana and you have your office in downtown Santa Ana. I only ask this because they've asked me a lot of the times, like, why do you have your escrow company in Santa Ana? Why not go towards more southern, Orange County, Newport Beach, Irvine, or whatnot? And a lot of people even tell me that they grew up in Santa Ana and it just has a bad memory for them.
Yeah.
But for you, I mean, you said that you really didn't fit in school in Santa Ana, but what made you want to stay in Santa Ana and really, be in this community?
Yeah. So I didn't have family that grew up here in the 80s or 90s, so we weren't really involved in that fiasco. So I don't have that reference, right? It doesn't affect me the way it might affect a bunch of people that I know. Right. Like, what do you mean Delhi? I'm like, Delhi is the closest neighborhood to the water.
The scariest at one point,
but it's so 80s, close to the water. It gets ocean breeze. It's 2 minutes away from South Coast Plaza, right? There's a big corridor that connects Tustin Legacy to Santa Ana, right? Like, people don't really see it that way. They get too caught up in, my dad was my uncle, my tío, I don't have that experience. So that's one. I saw a lot of growth here. It was sort of kind of like Desert Hot Springs. It was the most affordable place, surrounded by a lot of places that had like affluence. But at the same time, this is the county seat. This is where things are getting built. It's centrally located. So people could get to, if you're going to have a regular rental or you're going to have a short-term rental or whatever it is you're into, it's, we're a 15-minute drive from Newport
to everywhere much,
like you're pretty close to LA, so the central location, it's very
close.
Central. It doesn't get as hot as, let's say, fucking Yorba Linda during the summer. Not that Yorba Linda is bad, people like to live there, right? But I like to live and invest. It's for personal reasons. I have a drum set, I live in the hood, I like my people. I lived in quiet places before, and fucking neighbors are nosy as fuck. And it's like, what do you care, get away, lady. So I like it here. I like to play here. It's walking distance.
At what age? What age did you start playing the drums? Is drums the only instrument you play? You play guitar?
I can dabble and just about everything. My grandfather was a violinist. He was a professional violinist, Marcelino, que descansa en paz.
Wow.
Yeah, so he put 10 people, paid for university for quite a bit of them.
Oh, wow.
Had a house. Like, he was a professional musician.
Is that on your mother's side?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've never met my grandfather on my father's side.
Okay.
Actually, I never met either of my grandparents on my father's side.
Got it. Same here.
Yeah. So, when I speak about grandparents, mostly all mom's side, because that's my only experience.
Got it.
He taught me. We're a musical family. Like, music and my mom's side it's in our freaking blood. Like, everybody fucking plays the violin.
Yeah.
Like, everybody. I was like the black sheep. I was like, this is cool, but I want to fucking play the drums. So my grandfather taught me. He wanted to play, and remember him teaching me in his little office, and he used to listen to these really like left wing politics tapes. My grandfather was really into like left wing politics, Obregón, and so he would listen to these things, and then he taught me how to play the violin. So he taught me how to play the violin by ear, and then he taught me the solfeo, which is the one you sing. Yeah. But he'd be like, listen to this, and then emulate it. Right. So that was a game changer for me, because I learned how to listen from like fucking...
So that's how you listen to as well the music.
That's
on the
how
drums?
I learned to play the drums. Yeah. That's how I learned to play everything. Yeah. I mean, it has its limitations, because then if you're gonna get a gig that requires you to learn 10 songs, it's actually easier for you to read charts, because then you could have a blueprint, as opposed to learning 10 songs.
10 songs, yeah.
However, because I developed like a decent listening skill, I got pretty good at feeling the music. So I'm like, oh yeah, we can feel it, because I spent thousands and thousands of fucking hours listening
to it. Yeah.
So that's how he taught me how to play. He's like, play, and I was like, damn. Then we moved to the States.
Got it.
And I started taking lessons from my tío Juan, who is also a professional musician. He has taught in Washington. I think he produced a Lupillo Rivera record.
Oh,
like,
wow,
so
look at that.
He's kind of low key. He's not.
Okay.
He's very like under the radar, but he's a professional musician. And I took lessons from him, and I just was like nah, like I would never practice. He can tell. I mean, I would kind of bullshit my way through the lesson. I always wanted drums. I would take these fucking pillows and rulers at first, and I'd just bang on them, you know.
Yeah.
And I would always ask my mom for drums, and eventually I got.
She got you drums.
A drum set when I was 12, going on to 13.
Oh, wow.
I was a
See,
kid.
some parents sometimes, and me, I was like, my daughters or anybody that wants drums, I was like, no, I am going to hate it later on because the headache and the loud noise. And,
I mean,
but,
in retrospect, like, you didn't have to tell me to play. So if I ever have been blessed with children and I see the talent, I guess I think as parents and as people, we have to nurture the talents of our children and not whatever the fuck I want, whatever they want.
Or what annoys us, but it's something that...
Hey, dude, if I had a child that was that into it, I'd be like, hell yeah. What do you want? Like... You didn't have to tell me to. I would play all day. I'd literally play all day.
Yeah.
And summer, my parents were gone for work. I'd have to set up my drum set because we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. So I'd have to set up my drum set in the living room and then put it all back. So I would set it up and I would play all day. Just fucking play all day. Yeah. So I was always playing. I liked playing a lot. You didn't have to tell me to practice. I would just play. Right? I would just play, and that was like I always have a running joke with my friends and like people that love me. Drums are the most consistent thing in my life. Or music. I don't know anything that's been that consistent.
Yeah, that's good because you play in big gigs. I know you've done a couple of them for our Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I know we have another event that's coming up that you guys are going to be playing.
Yeah.
I saw you guys in Cinco de Mayo in downtown Santa Ana. I saw you in Garden Grove.
Yeah.
Outside. That was pretty cool. Outside.
That was a dope gig. I play right now. We play with 2 cats. They're Oscar and Frank. They're also they come from a family of musicians. Their dad is a musician as well. Mm-hmm. Tios are musicians. So we click. We're good. If we practice more, we probably get better in bigger gigs. But it's a good dynamic because we all like Spanish music.
Yeah.
And we all like the same English music. So I played with bands that were all into the same English music as I was, right? Like, the rock stuff or the funk stuff. And I played with bands that were all into the Spanish stuff, but they were really just into the Spanish stuff. So these are the only cats that I've met that like both. Like organically grew up
and you guys get along.
I mean, sometimes. We don't always get along. It's like a
band.
Okay. But, I mean, I play in a band with 2 siblings, for God's sake. They're always fighting each other.
So your brothers also... play instruments?
So none of my brothers took it. Like my brother Caesar used to play drums for a little bit, but to me, I just made it a priority. I've let a lot of shit go for playing music. I spent a lot of weekends. I missed a lot of birthdays. I missed a lot of God bless what my ex-partner, because she fucking was like, I was gone a lot. I play a lot. So it's like, I'm not there often, and it's like a pretty crazy commitment that you make when you want to play live. There's other people that play like studio and stuff. I like playing live. That's my thing. I fucking love the energy. Yeah. There's just nothing like it. Yeah. That the fucking spirit takes over and it takes you like to a different universe that it's inexplicable. Yeah. So anyway, these dudes are good. I like playing with them. I even forgot the question. I got so caught up in like playing live that I forgot what you asked.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying about, you play in different, you played in some of our events at the Hispanic, the Chamber of Commerce and in Santa Ana, and you really get into it, and it's really amazing. Like I said, when I say you're unique, it's you put your heart out, not just in real estate, but you put your heart out in, the drums and performing, because everybody's like, damn, Julio, like, you know what I mean? It just, it gets the crowd going. Yeah. You know what I mean? And not a lot of musicians do that. And it's like, for you to balance those two and be successful at both, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And drums are interesting. And I thought about this before. It's the only role in life where I take a back role. I take a supportive role.
Got it.
Right? So in my own maybe ego or whatever, I try to compensate and be here.
Right.
But I couldn't overplay. I learned to not overplay. You have to play for the music. So you have to be. So what do? well, I play with a lot of energy and a lot of passion, so it gets people attention.
Yeah.
So it takes me from back here and it puts me here to some extent.
Exactly.
So it's maybe my own fucking ego or insecurity that brought me out here,
right.
and then people resonate with it.
Right.
But I like it. Yeah,
that's good. So two last questions, and then we'll go on. But one of my questions is, what is your ultimate goal, or where is your ending goal with all this? I mean, where do you see yourself? I don't know, in 10 years, but what is your ultimate goal or your end goal? You know, in what you do, or, you know, I know you said financial freedom, but ultimately the goal is, you know, I don't know if I ever see you retire, but a lot of people say, oh, by the time I'm 50, I'm going to retire. By the time of this, you know, I don't know if that's your persona to say that that's what it is. I know financial freedom. We didn't even talk about Airbnbs that you might have.
I called the short-term rental.
So those are pretty successful. But what is your ultimate goal? Because I know it's always hustling. I always see you on the go. You're always posting. You're always doing, you know, everything. Like, what is your ultimate goal? Or the end goal?
There's no really end goal. I think you should live life like you should enjoy doing what you're doing now. There shouldn't be a gratification of like, oh, when I'm 40 and where I'm 50 or when I'm 60. But I do actually see it changing to doing more creative things with my life. So I don't have to be the top salesman. I don't have to be the biggest landowner. Like, it doesn't really, like, I don't really get a kick out of it, right? It doesn't, what happens is with real estate, once you kind of know it and you have some equity, once you see a deal, you're like, okay, cool. Like, you kind of know where to go. So it's not even like that hard at that point. You're like, oh yeah, here it is. Let's acquire it. Let's know. Yeah, I know what to do with it now.
Right.
It's not all the fucking crazy work I did like 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So I will always be a real estate investor. I'll never stop investing in real estate. I'd like to buy an apartment building in Santa Ana. Actually, they always say the more specific and the more specific the goal, the more you get there.
Better. Yeah.
So I'd like to buy a unit. That would be my first investment. In an apartment building in Santa Ana that's distressed, right? That I can do some value at work. That's how specific I'm getting. But I'm not crazy into looking for it at the moment. I have to check myself constantly on this one and be like, you have to live life now and enjoy the things that you do. So I'm riding my bike. Starting to write a lot as much as I can. I box. I read a lot. Live a fulfilled life. I'd like to do a lot more like traveling and some hiking, like solo hiking. I was looking at the Pacific Crest Trail.
Nice.
I like to share my experiences with people, both on the financial side, but also like on the mental health side and what's helped. I think we have an epidemic, and especially in our community. So if I can be sort of a leader and a male leader and really be an advocate for mental health.
Yeah, mental health is important.
Then I can. So I would like to step out and help people that way, right? So, I mean, at least I recently signed up for an improv class. Not that I want to be an actor or anything, but like just do very things that like kind of like I'm living it now. There's no end goal. Like, but when I turned 35, I started to think about a family a lot more.
Yeah.
Like a stable family and perhaps have a kid. So that would be in the future and maybe the near future. Maybe not in a year, but like it's there. I thought about it. You know, I started really like logistically planning like, oh, what would happen? Like who would help me take care of, all those things that people do. And so,
that's awesome.
In terms of business, maybe go... So, 2, business. I want to buy an apartment building that's 8, and I want to buy a place in Puerto Vallarta before I'm 40.
Yeah.
That's it.
Nice. Yeah, good. Well, best of luck, and thank you for joining us. And where can they find you if they want to come and follow you and you know, your amazing project? Any questions anybody asks? You know, if you guys are just really starting or getting off of college or want to intern, I don't know, you've got like questions they can ask Julio, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me at Rock and Roll Realtor with an underscore because Rock and Roll Realtor was taken. So I had to do Rock and Roll Realtor with an underscore. And then you can reach out. Sometimes it takes me a minute. I will get back to you. The more specific the questions, the easier I have a time responding.
It's fun. Okay.
You are pretty specific. sometimes people would join me at a project if they really want to ask me questions. Take a shovel, come here, help me out.
Yeah.
Follow my band, Mantra.
Go follow them. Yeah.
We play locally. We like to support. We like to get hired. We also like to get paid. So fucking pay us. I've seen how much money you guys fucking spend. Yeah. Not you in general, but like fucking.
You're seeing everybody else is like, I know you spend that much there. You can spend. Yeah.
You roll up in a fucking in a brand new BMW. You're paying the band peanuts. Pay bands. Pay musicians. Pay artists.
Entertainment.
Yeah. Pay us. We spend a lot of time, money, and energy.
Putting all the instruments out. Well, thank you, Julio, for coming in, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a second part to this because we can go on and on forever.
Yeah.
You know, with different topics and different talks, and we didn't even get into politics.
Yeah, that's why I don't get into it. I just want to come to our office because then we'll talk for 3 hours.
We'll talk forever, and it's kind of, what about this and the politics and what's going on in the news and this and that. But it's always amazing, you know, talking to you. Like I said, it's always very interesting. Like I said, you're a very interesting man.
Thank you.
You know, because of everything that you do, the passion, the people you work with. I've personally, you know, I thank you for your business. I thank you because I've learned from even your clients that I personally have met, and you know, they follow me, they thank me, and you know,
my clients love Maria.
Yeah, and one of the ones, if you guys don't know that, you do have a soft spot, you know, especially for single women. I mean, we had one that not single women, single mom and single women, but single moms, because you just sold one of your properties, you know, to a gal out in Palm Springs Desert.
It was a year ago,
You know, that you were pretty stoked, and you talked about her, and she goes, she's a single mom. You know, I want her to have this because this is her first home.
Yeah.
None of her family own a property, and you know, you were pretty stoked for that. And I thank you for that because you know, you do see that. It's not like you're just gonna get the best, you know, offer because someone's overbidding it, but because it means something to you, and someone that's a single mom, and you've seen the struggles and whatever, that's something that I admire about you because you respect that and you talk about your clients very highly, and all your clients talk about you very highly.
Yeah, I think most of them do. Some of them might not like me. It's like with every business, but yes.
Because you're pretty straightforward, but
I liked her. I just followed up with her. I called her about a year ago, and it worked for me. I needed the money at the time. I needed the liquid cash to finish a project, so I thought quickly, and this is what real estate is about, finding solutions for problems. Right. Mm-hmm. And a solution that works for everybody is always a win-win. Mm-hmm. It worked for her. She needed a place. She probably would not be able to buy that place today with the current interest rates. Mm-hmm. And she did not have money to save. So with the inflation rates going up so high, she probably would have been out of the housing market.
Yeah, she would have.
Good for her.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Julio.
Take care.
You guys have a good one. Thank you, guys.